As we're moving in chapter 2, I highlighted Moodle, the assignments that are due. We move in chapter 2, so you have the training. I'm going to go through this project with you today on the board as part of your lecture, and then you'll have the greater project, the second assignment, on your own to do. So we'll go through this today. You'll have the training and the second project to do. And then, of course, your reading assignments for Skills 1, 11, 12, 13, 14 is nothing to read. So here's the chapter you're going to start with, chapter 2. So if you have your book, go ahead and flip it open. If we have any questions, we can refer to the book. And then go ahead and log into my TLab. While you're logging in, there's several students that are on temporary access. This is the last week for temporary access, so make sure you get a code before the date. So there's January 25th here. Some of you have 29th and 26th, but most of you are January 25th. So that's this weekend, or actually Monday. So make sure that you get a code and register so you don't lose your work. We go to the assignment calendar and the to-do list. You should see the 3 assignments that are due on this Monday. So go ahead and open up the Chapter 2 Greater Project Assignment number 1 and start that, and that's where we will pick up today. Download your files. Still, we only have one set of instructions and one paper to work with. Open up the instructions. Make sure to enable the editing so that way it's easier to see the work. And then I always minimize it down to the bottom, so that way I can see the instructions line by line. And you can even zoom in some if you need to. And then make sure to save it to your flash drive, so plug your flash drive in if you haven't already. For these projects, the name of the project doesn't make any difference, so you can change the name to something that you'll remember. I'm just going to leave it as that. Okay. So here is our start file, and then our first set of instructions. I'll just give you a few minutes to make sure everybody's there.
Where did you all save this stuff?
Hmm?
Where did you save this stuff?
You should put your flash drive in. If you don't have one, put it on your desktop. Just don't forget to delete it. Make sure if you don't save it to your flash drive in here that you delete it when you're finished. You don't want anyone else to get a hold of your assignment by mistake. This is one of the hardest classrooms to walk around. Alright, here we go. First one, of course, start Excel and open up our assignment. We've already done that, so let's scroll to number 2. Add the file name to the worksheet's left footer and the sheet name to the right footer. Almost looks like deja vu. You're gonna see this a lot. A lot of the assignments have this in there. So adding the file name to the worksheet left footer, it doesn't mean to type the file name. There's a code that you put in there that pulls the file name. So if we remember, we click in Excel, and if we look down here at the bottom right corner is the view buttons. Just change to the page layout view, and you automatically see the header. It wants the footer, so scroll down, and then it says click to add footer. It says in the left section, and I'm going to do this so we can see it at the same time. So it says left footer, so click on the left side. Once you click there, you get the special header and footer tools at the top, and then inside there is everything that you can add to the footer. So it wants the file name, so click there. It automatically puts that code in there that'll pull the file name. Then it wants the sheet name to the right footer, so click over to right. And if we look at the top, right next to file name, in the header and footer elements group, there's one that says sheet name. So we click there. Don't necessarily need to know what this means, we just need to know that we clicked the correct button. We double check that just by clicking somewhere in the spreadsheet. And we check inventory. Is the sheet name, we look down here at the tab, that is correct. There's our file name, look up at the very top and make sure that is your file name. And then it says return to normal view. Make sure you do this. Most people miss this part, and it makes for the rest of the assignment to be pretty difficult. So just go back to the view buttons at the bottom right corner, click on normal. Okay. Because this is our second lecture, a lot of this stuff moving through and reading is not new, so I'm going to move straight through it. If you have questions, please stop me, don't get behind, let me help you with it. All right, next one says insert 4 blank rows at the top of the worksheet. So scroll back up to the top, 4 blank rows. If we look, our very top is row 1, starts at A. Several ways to do this. I like to click on the row, and then if you just right click by the number 1, it'll say insert. It says insert 4, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. You could also go over here in the sales group. Here's the insert, and then you can insert sheet rows there. Either way is correct. Either way will mark it correct on the simulator. All right. Next one says insert the text Tom's place as word art using the fill black, text 1 outline, background 1 hard shadow, background 1 style, then change the font size. So Tom's text place word art. So you're just going to go to the So in the Insert tab, inside the text group, there's one that says Word Art. Sometimes when you shrink these, all the menus collapse. It's hard to see. So there's one that says Word Art. It's a little slanted A. If you click there, then you have several different options here. Again, if you hold the mouse over, it gives you a description of what they are. So what we're looking for is fill black, text 1, outline, background 1. Sometimes it'll give you the location, this one doesn't. So it says black, so let's try to find the black one. Black, text 1, outline 1, background 1. So what is this? Text 1, shadow, gray. Text 1, outline 1, background 1, hard shadow, background 1. There we go. So that's what it is, matches here. Fill, black, 1, outline, 1, background 1, hard shadow 1. So that's the one we want. It's in the first column, third row, right there. So go ahead and click there, and it says, gives you just a big text box to type in your text. And you just type Tom's Place. Remember with these, capitalization, punctuation is a key. If you don't have the correct capitalization or the punctuation involved there, it's going to say that you did not complete the task. And then it says word art text to 32. So if you triple click right there, then you can easily change the size. So it's at 54 right now. Just change that size to, what's it, 32. Press the down arrow, find 32. And there we go. Move the word art to the top of the worksheet in approximately the range C1 through F4. First thing I like to do is click somewhere else. That way it accepts my changes. Then I click once. And once you see the little fill handles, this is probably hard to see. Once you see the little fill handles and the dots around, if you move your mouse around to where you see the 4-pointed arrow, you can move it. So right here, you can just move it up. It says C1, F4. Also, with that highlighted, you can use the arrow keys to move it a little bit more. So I'm going to move it here. That's C1. Doesn't quite go to F4. So I'm going to leave it right there at C1. Triple click on the words. So there's your word art sitting there. And that is question number 4. Just go ahead and click the quick save button. Do it occasionally, just like to save it. Scroll down number 5. It says select the labels in row 5 and apply the text wrap, center, and middle alignment. So if we look at row 5, all of these are considered our labels. So we'll highlight A5 through H5. And then if you look right here is the wrap text. So click the wrap text there, and then it wants center and middle alignment. So if you go over in the alignments, this one right here says middle alignment, and this one says center. So it wraps your text based on the size of the cells and then centers it. Makes it easier to read. Number 6 is in cell H6. So we click right here. This chapter is all about functions and charts. So we're going to create a couple more functions, some little basic functions in here. So it says enter a formula that multiplies the value in G6 with the percent value of the interest loan in the formula. Use an absolute cell reference on one of the cells. Copy this formula down. So we're going to enter a formula that multiplies G6. So we're just going to type this formula. So the first thing we have to do is start with an equal sign. It tells Excel we're creating a formula. We're going to do G6. Use the little asterisk for multiplication. And it says by the loan interest. If we look, if we scroll down a little bit, we see that our loan interest is down here. So that's the cell we want to use. So it's B23. Now the last step is new. It says absolute cell reference. What this means is this cell will remain the same in our formula even if we copy it down. Because we remember the last chapter when we created formulas here, we were multiplying the same row. So when we copied it down, the row numbers increased in order to keep the formula the same. If you don't want the formula to increase as you copy it down, you set what's called an absolute cell reference. If you notice, we want to multiply this with all of these numbers. We don't ever want this to change. This is always going to be the same cell. So we make it an absolute reference. And all you do is press, make sure the cursor is next to the cell you want to be absolute, and you press F4 on the keyboard. And it puts a $sign on the cell and on the row. Later we'll talk about mixed references. You'll see that a little later, and I'll explain that. But this makes that cell always stay the same when you fill it down. So take that and hold the mouse at the very bottom right corner of that cell to where you get the little tiny black plus and double click. And it'll fill everything down. I don't want it down that far, do I? To H17, went down a little bit further, so I'm going to highlight these and press delete on the keyboard. So we just want the formulas to fill. Now just click somewhere in one of these cells in column H, and notice B23 is still the same. And if you were to click in the function bar, you can see this number changed to the row, this stayed the same. So that's what the absolute reference does, yes?
You just click F4.
Just press F4 on the keyboard.
Yeah.
Oh, backspace. Just tap this button.
Ah.
Oops, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't make that clear. F4 is the function buttons at the very, very, very top. It's not the letter F and then 4. It's all the way up here. Right there. Good. Any other questions? Okay, that's what the absolute reference does. scroll number 7, says in row 18, sum the columns C through H, and then we're formatting C18 through H18 with the total stuff. So we come over here. It's obvious where we want our totals. It says location total. So if we remember from the previous chapter, there's a nice function called the sum function, which will add everything together. And it wants columns C through H. So simply select here all the way across to H. So you select, remember with the big white plus, drag it over, looks like that. And then simply go up to the top in the Home tab, if you're not in the Home tab. Over in the Editing group, you have the big E that is the Auto Sum button. Just click that button, and it automatically sums those columns. If you wanted to look at it, look up in the formula bar, and that's what our sum function looks like. Start with equal sign, type in the function, and the range inside the parentheses. And then it says C18 through H18, which is still selected. We're just changing it to the total sales style. So if we remember from chapter 1, in the styles group on the Home tab, there's one that says sales styles. We can just press the down arrow there. And there's one that says total. Let's click there and click save. Go on to number 8. Now it says in the range C19 through F19, use a function to calculate the average for each of the store locations. Well, if you remember in math, the average is adding everything up and dividing by the amount of numbers that you have. We don't have to worry about that in Excel. There's actually a function that does that for us. We just need to tell Excel we want to use it. So in the range C19 through F19, so let's find it, C19 through F19, whoops, F19. We're using a function to calculate the average for each of the store locations. So if we look here, these columns, the heading are Downtown Store, West Side, Central Store, Valley Store. So that means we need to take an average of this information, which would be C6 through C17 is our average. If we go with all that selected, if we go up to the editing group and we see our little E, notice there's a drop down arrow. Go ahead and click that. Gives you some of the standard or most used functions. And notice there's one in there that says average. Let's try this. Go ahead and click there and see what happens. So it gives us a number, but we need to double check, make sure that formula is correct. So look up here and notice what happened. Looks exactly like the sum function, except for the function itself changed. So it says equals average, open the parentheses, and then we have our range. Let's click right here on C19, and we don't need the total in there. We just want the store locations itself. So click in the formula bar right here, and notice that it highlights that range for you. You can click and then drag down here. Is it going to do it? Change the range, it's not going to do it. So let's just change it itself. Click there, click up at C18, just change that to 17. And press enter. Once you change it to 17, notice it drops, skips that total, and then you can press enter. We'll do that for the other three. next one is C20 through F20. We're going to use the function to calculate the highest value for each of the store locations. This time, just click in C20. Let's do it like this. Click C20. We're going to just put a function in. The word, that keyword function means that you're going to use the equal sign and you're going to type the function name. So go up here to the editing group once again, press the down arrow, and notice there is something that says max. If we remember from mathematics, the mean, median, and mode, and the minimum and maximum, the max pulls the largest number. And that's what it's asking for, calculate the highest value for each of the store locations. So we need to use the max function. So go ahead and click there. It's going to automatically assume the columns above. Again, all we want is C6 through C19. So while the selection is lit and everything's moving, take your mouse and click here and drag just down to 17, and it should change that range in the function. Click and drag, and there you go. C6 through C17. Once you start clicking around in the functions and making them, the best way to make sure that you don't ruin your function by clicking somewhere else and the information in here changes, use the little green check mark. Well, it's not even green anymore with this, but the check mark that's next to the function right here, press that to accept the formula. That way you won't accidentally click around, yes.
When I click max, it doesn't put the formula in.
Okay.
Oh, wait, there's code.
Did you get it? Okay. So do the same thing to column D, E, and F. Click here. Well, actually, you could fill it over. Let's fill it over. Click right there, keeping it active. Hold the mouse there, you have the black plus, and then just drag it across this way. You can do the fill across the same way you filled down. Make sure you have the little black plus, and it'll fill it all the way across. If you want to double check, go ahead and click in one of those. And then you can click up in the formula bar just to make sure that it only pulled the range that we want. Okay, good. If you're in there, press the check mark so we don't mess it up. And scroll down to number 10. Can we guess what number 10 is? Do the same thing. It's asking for the location minimum, same range, or this is the C through F, which is right underneath these. Lowest value in math is minimum. So if we come up here to our auto sum button, press the arrow, there's one for minimum. We do the same thing, click there. Change the range by dragging here. And press the check mark. And fill it across. And save your work. Alright, now our table's complete. Has all of our values in there. We created the functions and formulas, so if any of these values were to change, all of our functions and everything would update automatically. So now it's time to create a chart to display the information in a more of a presentation manner. So we're going to select the range. It says select range B5 through F17, insert a cluster column chart, move and resize so it displays approximately in the range here, and change the title to inventory. So go ahead and select our range, which is B5 through F17. Select the range first. Then we simply go up to the top in the Insert tab, up to the Insert. And then there's a Charts group. It's looking for a clustered column chart. So we see the columns right there. If you hold the mouse over those, tells you what each one of them are. Press the down arrow beside it. Is that the one I want? That one says bar. That one says combo. So bar. Go to more columns. Click more columns. And then here's where you can see it says clustered column. So that's the one we want right there. Just press OK. And then it just kind of throws the chart there for you. And it says move and resize the chart so that it displays. Notice we have an object selected. With the object selected, we get special tools for that object. This one says at the very top, chart tools. Move your mouse in here to where you have a 4-pointed arrow. So make sure that the mouse turns 4-pointed. Means you're moving all 4 sides. Now let's try to move it down to, it says A26 through H44, so move it down to A26. You're going to have to kind of move it, slide your page, move it again. So we put the corner right there in A26. Click and move. If you need it more precise, you can use the arrow keys on the keyboard, so go left a little bit. And then, it's not going to do it. And then it says down to H44. So scroll down, you can see there's H44. So these little fill handles, the little boxes, notice if you hold the mouse over it, your mouse changes. This will pull the corner diagonal. So we're going to go ahead and pull H44. Pull this corner to H44. Like that. As close as you can get. There we go. So it should look something like that. Mm-hmm. A26, put the corner at A26, and then take the bottom right corner and drag it over to H44. Alright. And then it says change the chart title to inventory. So up there, of course, it says chart title. If you triple click right there, you get the formatting bar and all the text is highlighted. Just change it to inventory by typing inventory. Again, make sure it's a capital I as it shows. Here, to accept it, you can't press enter on this. You actually have to click somewhere in the white space. But I believe in the training exercise, you have to press enter to accept the title. So try both. After you press the title, after you type the title in there, press enter on the keyboard. If that doesn't accept the answer, just click somewhere in the white space. Yes?
I lost the whole title frame.
So just click on the Okay, save your work there. We've made our first chart. Scroll down to 12. Now this one says insert a pie chart. based on the non-adjacent ranges C5 through F5 and C18 through F18. Move the pie chart to a new chart sheet and name it inventory chart. So first thing we need to do, if your navigation pane came up, go ahead and close it, press the little X there, just so it's out of the way, so we can have our sheet. And scroll up to the top. I want you to scroll up again, just like formulas, because our chart's selected, it actually shows you the data that's involved in the chart, so that's good. That's handy for later on in the chapters. All right, so go ahead and click somewhere in the blank cells just to deselect that chart. And then it says non-adjacent ranges. So here is the best way to do it. It's easy in this part, especially in the training assignments, to get this wrong because it tracks every single one of your mouse clicks. So the first thing to do is select the first range. This says C5 through F5. So just go C5 through F5 and then release the mouse. Then in order to pick the non-adjacent range, you have to tap Control on the keyboard. So hold Control on the keyboard and then come down to C18 through F18. Click, drag, release, then release the Control key. If you make a mistake and select the wrong thing, make sure you come over here, select somewhere else, and start it over. There isn't any way to back it up. C5 through F5. If you're in the training, C18 through F18. If you're in the training and you select something wrong, press the reset button. And if you don't know where that is, I'll show you where it is there. Also, when we're taking the test, I'll go over the reset button. That way it doesn't keep marking your answer wrong. Okay. Good. So then we got those two selected. So now we're going to move, create a pie chart. So we're going back to Insert. And there's the pie charts there. And it says to a new sheet. So press the down arrow. It doesn't say 3D, so we're going to choose the very, very first one that just says pie. If we hold a mouse over this one, it says 3D pie, and they didn't say 3D pie, they just said pie. So that's how you would tell between those two. So that's the pie chart. So go ahead and click there. Same thing happens as before. It just kind of throws the chart in there. So it wants us to move this to a new sheet. So while it's selected, if we look up at the top, again we have new tab for the chart tools. Inside the design tab, all the way over to the right, it says location, and it's in the location group and it says move chart. So press there. Get two options, an object and inventory, which is how it sits right now. So that radio button is already selected. But we want a new sheet, new chart sheet. So click right there. Change the radio button there. Then it asks you to change the title. It wants us to say inventory chart. Make sure the I and the C are capital. Okay. And then press OK. And then it moves over to the new sheet. Notice we have inventory where we just left, and our new tab that says inventory chart, which is the one we just created. Good. So now we're going to change the way this pie chart looks. You notice down here it has color. This is our key. Doesn't really show us much information, it just has 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we can change all of that. On the pie chart it says change the layout to layout 2. Again, in our chart tools, in the design tab, if we look over in the chart layouts, There's the quick layouts over here. So press the arrow down, and if we hold the mouse over, we'll see one that says layout 2. So we're changing it to layout 2, which is that. It's in the second column, first row of that. And it also gives you a preview down here of what it looks like when you change it. So click there, and it changes. Our titles, our legend actually moved up to the top. So this says ensure that the data labels contain the category name and percentage. You just have the percentage there. And the label position is set to the outside in. So if we look at if we go to the add chart elements, this is also in the chart layout, so add chart elements, over to data labels. And we want to use, is this, yeah. Is this the one? Yep. So if we choose the data call out, it actually takes care of ensuring that the label is set outside. The data labels are the square or rectangular call outs, and the category name and percentage are showing. So that data call out takes care of all of those. So press there. Then the last thing says add the file name element in the left footer sheet and one in the right footer.